Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Momma Jo's Kitchen. Hey, it is getting warm in here. You know why? Because I've got my stove here going on high right now. Now, I would have started from the very beginning, but Michael's going to be home soon. That's my husband, and he's really hungry. He already sent me a text and I asked him what time he's going to be home, and he said around 3-ish. He has to pick up a bottle of medicine, and then he's going to be home, and he said he was feeling peckish. Well, he already knows what I'm making, so he can't wait to get some. This is one of Michael's late mother's recipe. It's an old-fashioned recipe, and I told you all I was going to make it today. But I wanted to explain something to you because there's a great big debate out there. I don't know why over something, really simple. Okay, this is called, it's ham and potatoes is what I'm using. Ham and potatoes, we call it slippery pot pie. Then there's people out there say that that's not pot pie. Well, let me tell you, this originated from the Pennsylvania Dutch, which is a neighboring state of ours. And Michael's mother made this. And let me tell you what the difference is between a pot pie and a slippery pot pie. A pot pie is a traditional pot pie, often using chicken. I mean, sometimes they could use something different. It's baked with a crust on top. A slippery pot pie is made on the stove in a pot. And they either make rivels, which is made with flour, little dough pieces, and they drop it in. Or what we're going to do today is reason why it's called slippery pot pie is the dumplings that we make is not the same that goes in regular chicken dumplings. You know, there's different types of dumplings. There's the kind that is very soft and airy. We're not making that kind. There's the kind that you do roll out and cut. But I have a recipe for that, and it has like baking powder or baking soda in it. It's totally different, and it has more of a softer texture. Again, this originates from the Pennsylvania Dutch. They use flour, they use an egg, and it's optional. Some use milk, some use water, some use broth. We're going to use water because that's the way Michael's mother made hers. And it's supposed to be a chewy, a very firm dumpling. So stick with me and you'll see how we're going to make this. Now, ahead of time, the very first picture that you might have seen in the video, you saw a ham. Well, let me tell you what I did with that ham. I took that ham and I put it in my crock pot and I almost fully covered it with water because I wanted all that broth. And I let it slow cook all night long to the next day. And guess what happened? After we came home from church and everything, I started to take that meat out of the water. It fell apart. That's what you want because the ham that we're using today, we want it to be kind of like if you're making pulled pork, you know. Now, I have more than this. I think this is... trying to think. I was going to use both of them, but then I thought this is probably about 6 cups, I'm going to guess. Let me show you the one I've got in the freezer. Okay, then I've got this one. This is probably about 4 cups. So that's about a total of 10 cups of ham. So I'm just going to use this for something else. Now, if you're making this for a big family, you could probably, you notice I have an extra large pot on my stove. Okay, so this is the broth that I saved, and when I put it in the refrigerator and let it get cold, it congealed. As you can see, it's jiggly, but when we heat it back up, it's going to get back to a liquefied state. And it had all the fat came to the top, and I removed it. You can easily remove it once it gets cold and sets up. In this pot, I have 8 medium potatoes that I have peeled, and I have sliced them almost as if you were making, not as thin as a potato chip, Not as thin as making like scalloped potatoes, a little bit thicker. They don't have to be in rounds. You could do them in cubes if you want, but we like them in rounds. Now, I peeled them. You know, I had them soaking in water. I drained them off, and I put them in this pot, and I put enough water on there to cover them. We might end up adding some more water, but I need to get this broth in here. So let me see if I can carefully get this in here without making too big of a mess. There we go. I've got my stove on high, and the potatoes were starting to boil, and I would have had this all in there to boil together, but I was, my grandsons got here, and my one grandson, he wasn't in a good mood, so I told him to go next door to Gigi's until I get everything settled here and get done videoing. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to bring this back up to a boil. I'm not going to add any salt at this time because there's so much salt, you know, in ham. It wasn't cooked ham, but I know it has a lot of salt. But I am going to put about a teaspoon of black pepper in here. Michael does not like an onion, but I'm going to put it in there for the flavor, so I'm going to leave it whole. And this is optional. Michael's mom, when she would make it, she would just use potatoes and ham, and then do the dumplings. Some people use celery, onions, you know, since this is ham, peas would be good, but I wouldn't put them in till like towards the end after your dumplings are done. So that's probably a medium onion, and I would say that the celery was about 3 or 4 small stalks because they were kind of yellowish. They were the inner, what I had left of my celery. So what we're going to do is bring everything back to a boil. And I'm trying to debate if I want to add any water or not, because we have our dumplings. I think we're good right now. I can always add more if I needed to. But, see, we're going to get that ham in there too. We're going to let it all cook together. I'd like to know, have you ever had slippery pot pie before? Particularly the ham kind. The ham and potatoes, they go really well together. Okay, now that I put the meat in there and I see how, you know, because we need room for our dumplings, I'm going to add some water to this because we're going to have time. Michael might get home before this does. Okay, that's plenty. So I end up using a little bit more than a half a gallon of water, good water. I'm going to let this come to a boil. We're going to let the potatoes cook. Meantime, I'm going to get a surface area cleaned, and we're going to get these dumplings rolled out and made. I'm going to show you how to make them. We're going to get them cut out. And when the potatoes are done and everything's boiling, and I might remove that onion since it's taking up space after it's done its job. Plus, we could taste the broth at that time to see if it needs, you know, any more seasoning. Then we'll get our dumplings in. So we'll be right back. All right. Okay, folks. I apologize. I tried moving. I can't work on the stove. It would have been perfect if I could use my glass stove top over there. But there's not going to be enough room. So I tried, this is my freezer. So I made sure my surface is clean. My hands are clean. And in this bowl, I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And the only thing I've put in here besides flour is I did put in a teaspoon of salt. And then I just stirring them together here. Now, this, again, is supposed to be a chewy, dense type dumpling. That's why we call them slick or slippery dumplings. The only thing we're going to put in here is egg and water. And, you know, depending on how many, you know, how much you're making. Like I've got a great big large pot over there. You know, maybe you don't want to make that much, you know, maybe it's just for 1 or 2 people. You could go with 1 cup of flour and do 1 egg and salt, and you just add just enough liquid. I probably won't even eat all this. This is almost a cup. And I'm going to put in, it's better to put in a little bit, you know, in at a time and stir it until it comes to a dough. You don't want it too wet. You want to be able to work your dough. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make a little well here in the middle, and I'm going to put my egg in here. This egg was just slightly beaten, and let's see here. I'm going to go in with either about a 1/4 or a 1/2 cup of water. Thing is, if you put too much in, you can always add flour to it, and vice versa. So there's about a 1/2. And we're just going to start pulling the sides of the flour into the liquid. Again, this is just all-purpose flour. Okay, now you can see it's coming together some, but not forming a ball. So that means I still need more liquid. And I might get in here and use my hands. That was probably about another 1/4. Okay, already made that much of a difference. Now it's coming together to form a ball. I'm going to get my hands in there. I don't think I want to add any more liquid at this point. Now, what I will say, okay, I'm going to use this mat right here. I'm going to get some flour and put it on the mat. Dust it, be generous with it. I'm definitely going to have to clean my kitchen up here when I'm done here. The more flour you use, the thicker your, like, if some people call it, it's not a soup, or more like, I guess it would be more like a stew. It will thicken, the more flour you use, the more it'll thicken your liquid. Okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to start working it. And if it's sticking, put more flour down. We're basically trying to make a smooth dough. See, I'm picking up those little pieces and stuff. This does not have to be perfect. That's one thing about this kind of a dough. It's pretty forgiving. Okay. Let me get my little dough, I don't know, scraper. I think that's what you call it. Okay, I'm just going to cut it in half for right now. It just makes it a little easier to work the dough. I'm just going to stick that one here, bring it up to you so y'all can see. So all I'm going to do now, and you can, if you get your rolling pin, I also have a small, trying to think what you call, or I mean, if you wanted to, you could use your hands, but you really want to roll it out if you can. I guess I could have done this on my island, but the problem with that is I would have had to move everything. It would have been harder to set you all up. Now this does not have to be perfect, folks, because it's supposed to be rustic and now get my pizza cutter. Oh, I'm boiling over here. Let me stir it on the stove. We are boiling away, folks. That's good. Okay. You know, I should have gotten out my baking sheet. Hold on a second. I might have to move you all over a little bit to get in here. I apologize. Let me see. Hopefully you can still see. There we go. How's that? I'm just getting a baking sheet because I'm rushing around here. Now, hopefully y'all can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to cut strips. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. Watch. And I'm not pressing very hard. Okay, and then we can cut this way. You know, however long you want them or short that you want them. I remember the first time my mother-in-law made these and I ate them. I was just blown out of my mind how good they were. Now some people will put a little bit of flour down there. Boy, we boiling hard over here. Let me turn my stove down before it boils over. Okay. And like I said, you can dust it, you know, this if you want to. When we go to drop these, we will drop these in, you know, basically one at a time. So it's very much almost like making chicken dumplings. Like I said, there's no shortening or grease or, you know, any kind of fat. There's no leavening in this because they're supposed to be like this. Now, if they're starting to stick a little bit, that's because I didn't, they need a little more flour. I am going to taste that broth. I've got one more to roll out. Now I could put a piece of parchment paper here. I think I'm just going to put a silicone mat on top of it. I've got this small one here. All right, I'm going to put down a little bit more flour here. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Just roll it out. Get it thin. And like I said, if you want more dumplings, do 3 cups instead of 2 cups. But you saw how big of that pot was over there. But then again, we have potatoes in there, we have ham, and like I said, celery. You could add other things if you want, and you could saute your vegetables also if you wanted to in the beginning, but it's not necessary. My mother-in-law never did. I think a lot of the older cooks, even my mother, when she makes soup and things, she just throws everything in the pot and cooks it together. So I say, do what you like to do. Okay, see, no right or wrong to this. Very forgiving. So maybe I'd bring that over to y'all so you could see it a little bit better. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you all set up back where you were. I'm going to leave that on this mat here instead of transferring them. I was going to transfer it all to one. And I'm going to check my potatoes and taste my broth to see what it needs. And we will be right back. Alright folks, we are boiling away over here. And I'm going to get ready to drop these dumplings in here. I don't know, maybe you all want me to bring you down and give you a closer look. Hold on. Okay folks, I tried getting you a little bit closer. That steam is coming up. Alright, so when you stir this, you see the ham, see that floating onion, and there's lots of ham in here. The potatoes, they're done. So I'm going to set you all back up and we're going to start getting the dumplings in. You want to make sure you have a nice rolling boil like this before you start putting your dumplings in. And we're just going to start dropping them in there. You do not stir them, because if you do, they will disintegrate. You have to let them do the magic. It's what I call it. Actually, let me now we are going to turn them down though. We don't want them rolling boil the whole time. I'm trying to hurry up and get these in here so I can get the I was going to remove that onion, but it's still you know, probably still releasing some flavor in there because it's still kind of on the hard side. You don't want to make your potatoes too thin, because if you do, they're just going to disintegrate to nothing. So Michael's mother, you know, she kept hers really plain. She would only use usually just potatoes, meat, and broth. You know, I added the, I mean, she might have seasoned it maybe with salt and pepper. I'm telling you, I already tasted that broth. It doesn't need any salt. You know, if you think your ham is too salty, you could always, you don't have to use that much broth. You could always use more water too. You could always tone it back that way. Now see how some of those dumplings already come to the top. All right, I'm going to turn it down now. I'm going to put the lid on it. I'm going to come back, I'd say 5-10 minutes, and I might give it a very gentle stir. It probably takes anywhere from 10, 15, maybe 20. It just depends on your stove and how you're cooking it. And Michael's going to be home soon, and he's going to give you a taste test. So you all hang in there. It'll be just a second for you. It'll probably be a few minutes for me. Be right back. All right, folks. This is what it's looking like. Michael's home. And I let it go with the lid on for about 5 minutes. Now, you can always take a dumpling out and taste it, you know, to see if it's where you want it. I think it's good where it's at. Now, I know I've already tasted the broth. Michael's going to love it just the way it is. Now, personally, myself, you know, it's got a lot of ham, you know, flavor to it. So you could cut back and not put in quite as much ham flavor and do more water. But I know Michael, he's going to think this is perfect. So, you know, do what you like, what you think will be best, you know, for how you like it. I am going to remove that onion. And I'm going to get him served up here. Now, like I said, see, it's very brothy. If you wanted a thicker broth, you could always make yourself a little bit of a cornstarch slurry too. But I think Michael's going to like it just like this, because I think this is the way his mother, you know, always made it, you know, when she would make it. But like I said, she didn't even add the celery. She would just do the potatoes, and the ham, and the broth, you know. Okay, so Michael's home. Let me get a bowl made up for him, and we'll be right back.
How you doing, YouTube? Welcome to Momma Jo's Kitchen. Today we got a winner. It's ham and potatoes with slippery dumplings. My mama used to refer to this as slippery pot pie. So I'm going to go in and try to get me a big old bite. Get some taters on there. Excellent. The ham, everything's perfectly seasoned. Potatoes are done. The dumplings, perfect consistency, just absolute good. Overall, just the flavor. The broth really makes it stand out. Just reminds me just like Mama used to make. Every bite, really good. The potatoes absorbed all the broth and the flavor just in the potatoes. The ham. 2 thumbs up. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out the video where Momma Jo makes this. Check out all Momma Jo's videos. Come back and get you some more goodness. Thank you. Good night.